Today is day 18th of the 22 push-up challenge. Um, Today I'd like to read something that I found interesting. I will be answering one of the questions that I posed uh, before, like 2 days ago, right? I wanted to know if sociopaths were serving in the military, or if the military made an attractive career for psychopaths or sociopaths. That's what I wanted to know. And I found this article on www.g2mil.com, and it's a document titled "Combat Fatigue and Sociopaths." Sociopaths. Okay. Combat fatigue is an important topic mostly ignored in professional military education. Units involved in serious combat can expect to lose as many men to mental problems as from physical injuries. Just a few minutes of intense combat make many men dysfunctional, especially if they already suffer from lack of sleep, rest, warmth, or food. While fleeing towards the rear is one symptom, others include uncontrolled shaking, crying, or jumping up and down and screaming. Some soldiers turn into unresponsive zombies, which become known as the thousand-yard stare during World War II. Sergeants yelling to snap out of it does no good. The best treatment is to evacuate such soldier to a rear area where they are fed hot chow, allowed to sleep in a warm bed, then allowed to shower and shave and eat hot chow again. This cures most problems if they are quickly returned to their unit at the front. If they are allowed to linger in the rear longer, they begin to feel guilty about failing in combat and fearful of being called a coward if they return. They also dwell on the horrible experience and may refuse to move. Therefore, idle time must be avoided. Eat, sleep, clean, eat, and then a brief consultation with a medical officer who assures them that combat fatigue is common and a truck is waiting to take them back to their buddies at the front. There may be reluctance, but with assurance from a medical doctor and maybe some stern words from a sergeant, back to the front they go, less than 24 hours after they became dysfunctional. While combat fatigue affects some soldiers quickly, it affects all soldiers over time. Competitive, brave soldiers with years of combat experience often break down from accumulated stress. This was illustrated by the character Sergeant Oleonowski in the great movie Go Tell the Spartans, and by the chief mechanic in the great movie Das Boot. Most soldiers feel they are special and will survive untouched, but soldiers involved in months of heavy combat eventually realize they will die or end up maimed for life, usually after one of their buddies suffers that fate. This is why the U.S. Army Air Corps promised bombers crews during World War II that they only had to fly 25 dangerous missions before returning home. One study during World War II showed that after 90 days of combat action, 98% of soldiers showed signs of combat fatigue, and the other two were sociopaths. This is why it is important to pull entire units off the line for a couple days or a couple weeks depending on the combat intensity and hardships associated with food quality and weather conditions. During World War II, the U.S. Marine Corps developed a rotation technique so that the frontline infantrymen spent no more than 48 hours in direct combat with the enemy. The problem with sociopaths is never discussed within the U.S. military because it is not understood. Sociopaths have a mental condition in which death and destruction excites them rather than causing depression. It is a common mental illness, and most sociopaths live normal lives keeping their violent impulses under control. Others become serial killers. Many seek occupations that allow a socially acceptable chance to vent their rage. This is why police departments keep an eye on rookie cops who seem enthusiastic about kicking some butt. Many rookie cops are fired for bad temperament, often shooting someone for no reason. Police departments do not try to retrain them, knowing that sociopathic behavior is difficult to control. Sociopaths are attracted to military service as well, wanting to serve in infantry units where they can see violent action. While most All infantrymen are motivated by the excitement of combat and the accomplishment of the mission. Sociopaths are motivated by the chance to cause death and destruction. They can be identified by the wild-eyed excitement they show when talking about how they plan to kill the enemy. Another sign is a love of knives and violent movies. This dark behavior is usually dismissed as dark humor or enthusiasm, but it may be a sign of trouble. Sociopathic behavior is depicted in the movie The Dirty Dozen. While sociopaths are often so excellent soldiers, they are dangerous if they lose control. Officers and NCOs must be aware of this mental illness and take note of soldiers who demonstrate sociopathic tendencies. Before a unit enters combat, suspected sociopaths need counseling to let them know that they demonstrate sociopathic tendencies and that they must keep those urges in check. They should be warned that if they show any sign of losing control by harming prisoners or civilians, they will be transferred to a rear area unit. They are likely to be shocked by such a warning and thus keep their demons in check. However, many sociopaths are unable to retain control and commit vicious war crimes. Officers will not be confused about what triggered this odd behavior if they understand this mental illness. This does not excuse such behavior, it merely explains it. Hopefully, such incidents can be prevented by identifying sociopathic behavior beforehand and taking steps to deal with this mental illness. Given that some 2% of the general population shows sociopathic tendencies, and the volunteer military attracts a much higher percentage, keeping sociopaths in check is a major leadership challenge. A good policy is for sergeants majors to visit units and tell soldiers that sociopaths are among them and to report such behavior. And I found that on www.g2mail.com. Thought it was an interesting topic to talk about because it's another mental condition, another illness that we, of many, depression, trauma, sociopathy, psychopathy, narcissistic personality disorder, you name it. There's many conditions that exist. I feel it's important to understand how our mind works. I find it fascinating actually to study psychology. I do it on my own, so I like knowing this and I like sharing what I know too. But to get to back to the veteran suicide, what does that have to do with it? Well, most people that join the military aren't sociopaths. Most people don't want to kill unless they have to. So when soldiers go home with feeling guilty with things that they've done or the things that they have seen, it does something to them psychologically. So they're not the same anymore ever. They have to deal with those thoughts and emotions for the rest of their lives, and that's I think that's part of understanding the problem. It's all mental. We're not gonna solve it by medicating soldiers coming back from Iraq or Afghanistan, and we're not gonna solve it by increasing how much money they spend for the VA. It's gonna be through talking and sharing those experiences with people to try to perhaps prevent. I'm all about peace. I'm all about love, and prevent more future wars from happening. If you study history, one war has led to another. So, violence doesn't solve anything. But violence begets more violence. And so maybe a different approach to that problem would be a solution, a good solution. Try love. Try loving yourself first, and love other people. But that's only my humble opinion. I only record these videos for myself, so and I watch them over and over. but here's my 22 push-ups in support of the 22 veterans who kill themselves, right, to ease their pain. But there's other methods, other things that we can do to deal with our demons, and exercise one of them. Talking to people is another. Writing down your thoughts also, it helps. So, and here's my 22 push-ups. So I'm gonna go to bed soon. So,
This is it. Day 18. Day 18. See you guys tomorrow. Day 19. Good night.
peace.